met in your life. The levels are totally different. You have very high gymnasts, you have gymnasts that are not quite so good. That's exactly when you show yourself, you put in your maximum, and that's when a true champion is born and shown.
Since you traveled many times and played abroad many times, what are the main differences that you see between Egyptian players and foreign players?
The main difference is that foreign players really play from their heart. Here in Egypt, unfortunately, and I see that in the younger gymnasts, and I all the time advise them to play from their heart, feel the music, try to communicate with the audience, with the judges. You're not just doing elements, you're doing a show. This sport is, we are doing a lovely, elegant sport. We have to show every move with beauty and grace. Fortunately, here in Egypt, that's not all gymnasts, actually quite very few actually do that. And that's the main difference between us and other international gymnasts. The other thing is that here in Egypt, we don't really compete internationally at world championships, at World Cups as much as they do. For any country, there is one gymnast that goes to all the main competitions. That's what I'm talking about, senior gymnast, the national team. One gymnast goes to all the competition. Here in Egypt, we have this, there's like a line that each one has to take a line, and each one has to go to one competition and one has to go to another competition. That's also one main big bad point that I think that is, because the judges, if they see one gymnast, they know that gymnast, they see her many times, and that's when they start to remember a gymnast, that's when they start to give her better marks. Unfortunately, we don't do that, and therefore in larger competitions such as World Cups and Grand Prix, we don't get such good results as other countries do.
Tell me about your training schedule, how many times you train per day or per week, and the differences between the normal days and days before competitions. And do you follow a special diet in order to compete?
I train 6 days a week, minimum 4 hours, maximum, well, there is no maximum, about 8, but sometimes it can last longer. When I have university, I finish university and go straight to training. When I don't have university, I try to train twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon, each training about 3 to 4 hours. As for a diet, as I said, gymnastics is a sport of elegance and grace. I totally agree that the gymnast has to look elegant and like the shape of the body has to be good. And therefore, I try not to eat much carbohydrates or fast food or stuff like that. I usually try to stick to eating at home.
You had so many training camps in different countries. Tell us about each one of those experiences. What exactly did you do?
There are two main countries that I went to training camps in. First was Bulgaria, because my first coach was Bulgarian, Miss Emilia Krumova, and I used to go to training camps there when I was younger. And the second was in Russia, when I started to be a junior gymnast in 2009. I trained with the Russian national team there. In Bulgaria, when I started when I was younger, there's a different kind of school, you can say, a Bulgarian school and a Russian school. The Bulgarian school kind of more focuses on the use of the apparatus, and that's something that I gained there, that I can use the apparatus fluently and in many different ways. The Russian school also teaches that, but as well as that, the Russian school teaches you exactly how to do an element perfect, how to be perfect, how to point your toes correctly that you don't have any deductions, how to have the perfect flexibility, how to have the perfect catch of the apparatus. Everything is perfect in the Russian school.
If we were to make a comparison between Egyptian and foreign coaches, which is better and why?
There is no comparison, apparently. And unfortunately, as I might say. But because gymnastics, rhythmic gymnastics especially, didn't start, it just started recently here in Egypt. Athletes didn't compete that much. They maximum went to African championships at first, then they started competing at world championships, but it was very, like, just to compete. They weren't actually doing any results, and usually the foreign countries such as Russia and Bulgaria, Ukraine, Belarus, they have the best gymnasts in the world, and we tend to ask them for coaches and have coaches from there to teach us more about this sport. I think the new generation of gymnasts, senior gymnasts who are going to, after some time stop, are going to have more experience than other Egyptian coaches that were there before. But yet again, there is no comparison between an Egyptian coach and a foreign coach.
Some players say that the communication between the Egyptian coach and the player is much better. Do you think this is true or not necessarily?
In our sport, not necessarily. A coach in our sport is like a mother. She not only trains, but that's what actually I see in Russia and in Bulgaria and other countries, and that's also a difference there. A coach does not only coach you, but she coaches you. She is there for lunch, she is there for dinner, she is there when you go to bed, when you eat, what you study. She knows everything about your lifestyle. Here in Egypt, the coach is just coming for training for a few hours and then she's gone. She doesn't know anything about you to do the rest of the day. I myself, I prefer to work with foreigner coaches.
Tell us briefly about your most important achievements, nationally and internationally.
Well, nationally, national champion that is. Internationally, there were the All Arab Games in 2007. I came first in that competition. There was the African Championships. I came first in that. There was other international competitions where I used to come second, third, first, depends on the competition. I competed at the World Championships in Moscow in 2010. I was first on Africa in that. I competed as well at the Mediterranean Games recently, a few weeks ago in Turkey, in Mersin. I was the only Egyptian to qualify to the finals, and for the first time in the history of rhythmic gymnastics in Egypt, we have a gymnast who goes to the finals in any competition other than the African Championships.
Tell me about the rules of judging in rhythmic gymnastics.
The FIG, the International Gymnastics Federation, every 4 years creates a set of rules and regulations called the Code of Points. This code consists of how the gymnast is going to be judged in a competition and how the routine should what the routine should consist of. This year's Code of Points consists of a D score and E score. difficulty score and execution score. The execution score is 10 points. It's talking about how clean the routine is, without the apparatus falling, the gymnast falling, all of that. And it also consists of some points of how artistic the gymnast is. And then the D score, it's set into 4 different categories. And the difficulties, the elements that you perform. There are risks, some of throws, another called dance steps, where you have to go for 8 seconds dancing towards the music that you're playing to with the use of the apparatus. And then there's the mastery, that's the use of apparatus in a different kind of way that's not usually, not the normal stuff that you do, something more collaborative and new and stuff like that. The routine has 20 points, and regarding to how clean and how correctly and how difficult you do your routine, you are given the exact points.
Our final question is, what are your hopes and dreams in gymnastics and in your life generally?
Well, in gymnastics, I dream of going to the Olympic Games. It has been my dream ever since I started gymnastics. Hopefully in Rio de Janeiro in 2016. I also, after I finished my gymnastics career as a gymnast, I wish to be a coach and a judge. And other than that, I wish to have a successful career in my education when I graduate.
Well, by that we have come to the end of today's episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. Until we meet you again next week, have a